Hello and welcome to the Denver Homes Market Report. This is Ricky.schoonover of Mode Denver Real Estate, and this is our year-end recap. So we had quite a year this past 2021. I, for one, am ready to turn the page and turn my attention to this new year of 2022. However, before we get too far along here, I think it's important to look back at 2020 and 2021 and see where the real estate market has been, and more importantly, use that data to help us make a best guess as to where we're headed in 2022 and beyond. You know, we keep hearing about supply chain issues and shortages in labor, and this has had a ripple effect across many industries. And although residential resale real estate may have not been affected directly, at least not too much by all this, the cost of building materials and the time it has been taking to get building permits approved by the city of Denver and the surrounding metro areas, that has been a factor for sure. More importantly than the supply chain and the cost of materials, sure, for anyone building new projects, this has been a pain point. You know, for myself, have been trying to get a garage build approved and permitted by the city, and it has really been taking a long time. I would submit my plans. They would sit at the city zoning office for 11 or even 12 weeks, only to have them come back and ask for either updates in the architectural drawings or in the structural. Each time, it would take me about a week or two with either my architect or my structural engineer before I could then resubmit my package for my permits. I went through this song and dance 3 times before we had the package approved and the permits issued. When you do that sort of math, you'll see that just to get permits, it was about an 8 to 9 month process. That wasn't even the total time, which was closer to 10 months, as I had already reached out to my architect even before I submitted the first time. By the time I was ready to get permits about 11 weeks ago, I had to once again circle back one last time with my architect just to double check to make sure my drawings were all still within the current codes and the zoning codes hadn't changed during that process. What a nightmare. Well, I'm happy to say I have a pretty amazing team. My architect, my structural engineer, my surveyors, and my contractors, all invaluable. We got through the process and my contractor is finally starting on building my garage. All that being said, none of that is really the big driver when it comes to real estate. All that is, in fact, a very small factor. There are 2 other issues which are affecting your ability to buy a home right now. First is the demand. Let's face the facts. Since the pandemic, and actually even well before the pandemic, between the massive tax cuts that took place back there in 2017, now in hindsight, we all know the lion's share of those tax cuts were for people who were actually already wealthy. Sure, almost everyone got a little slice of the pie, but let's not kid ourselves. That was a tax cut designed by billionaires for billionaires. However, when we got hit with the pandemic, the money printing continued. Now, I'm not saying it's without merit. We were in the middle of a pandemic and still are. And this is of such gross magnitude. We have not seen anything like this since 1918 with the H1N1 virus. And now we have come a long way in medicines and vaccines since then. However, we have already lost more Americans to this most recent COVID-19 than we had with H1N1 back in 1918. The government stepped up and has provided and continues to provide free and discounted testing along with free vaccines. Now, in reality, we all know nothing is free. These are pharmaceutical companies being paid for with our tax dollars to help develop and produce these life-saving vaccines. Then comes the monumental task of getting as many people as possible on board with taking the vaccines. That has also been slower than anyone would expect. So while the virus keeps infecting more people, each time it does, the virus learns a little bit more on how to mutate to be more efficient in its mission of infecting and making more people sick. So the virus continues to mutate, and the longer this goes on, the more money the government keeps printing. They have to pay the pharmaceutical companies for research and developments of new vaccines that are geared towards the variants. There are also continuing to provide support to the citizens and to hopefully avoid a massive collapse of our economy. Okay. Now, I know I got off on a little bit of a tangent, but the bottom line, all this money has been pumped into the economy. And even with so many people who have been adversely affected by the pandemic and the disruptions in their work, the money has been pumped into the economy that has put cash in many people's pockets, either directly or even indirectly. And we have many people out there who are looking to buy homes. Then you have the whole other aspect that many people have discovered they can work remotely, and they no longer have to live on the coasts like out in New York or New York City or Silicon Valley out there towards San Francisco and California. So there are a good number of people who are looking at Denver as a great place to move to. I mean, after all, we are a major hub. You can grab a direct flight out of Denver and be in New York in about 4 hours. Or jump on a flight, fly out to San Francisco, and be there in about 3 hours. Denver is a great option and seemingly affordable when you're comparing the prices of homes to either New York City or Silicon Valley. Okay, so we know there's high demand. That's great. Well, unless you're currently trying to buy a home right now. Then you know the level of competition is incredible, and it's hard to get an offer accepted. I mean, I'm working with a client. We put in an offer a couple weeks ago. They had over 18 offers on that particular house, and our offer was very strong. I mean, in excess of $50,000 over and above their listed price. And my buyer is well qualified. We still did not win. We were number 2 out of 18. But in the end, being number 2 is no different than being number 18. The results are the same. The home went to the buyer who was willing to pay more and provide more favorable terms to the seller. The demand is high, and what is exacerbating this high demand is the fact that we have very low inventory. So what does, quote unquote, low inventory mean? Well, let me make this crystal clear. Let's look at how many homes we had available for sale back in December of 2020. We had 16,000 active listings for that month. Now let's fast forward to this most recent December 2021. We had just 7,300 homes available for sale. I mean, that's almost 10,000 less homes in the inventory than from our year previous. So if you think last year was crazy, we are heading into this season with less than half as many homes available for sale. Bottom line, we need for home sellers to list their homes for sale. We need inventory. This is the seller's markets of all seller's markets, at least that I've seen in my 19 years now of selling real estate. If you own your own home and you're even thinking about selling in the next 3 to 5 years, this may be the year for you to act now. If you're thinking of selling your home either this year or even in the next couple years, give me a call. I would love to get you started and start helping get you and your home ready for sale. If your selling is, a ways off yet, that's okay too. I can get you on my radar, make note of your specific timeframes, and go from there. If we get more sellers to list their homes, each sale also takes one of the buyers out of the pool. You sell a home, buyer goes off the market, so does the house. Now, that means one house also comes off the market. So we really need about 3 sellers to come to market for every buyer winning the bid on their offer. This 3-to-1 ratio could go on from now through all spring and summer, and it would barely make a dent on our inventory prices. I have one more bit of numbers I want to share with you today before we close out today's show. Let's look at December 2020. I want to see how many homes were sold in December 2020 and then compare that number to the number of homes we sold here in Denver Metro this last December 2021. So December 2020, we sold 8,872 homes for that month a year ago. Then for this past December 2021, we sold just 7,578. So about 1,200 homes less this year over last year. Now, I would not read into that as a downturn or a slowdown by any means. I mean, bottom line is we just didn't have as many homes to sell. The rate of increase from 2020 to 2021 was a staggering 16.68%. Think about that. You bought a home in January of 2020, say you paid $600,000 for it. A year later, come January 2021, that home would now cost you over $700,000. That is an incredible rate of return on your investment. However, a home you own is much more than just an investment. I mean, it's shelter, a secure and safe place for you and your family. All right, well, that's going to wrap up today's episode of the Denver Homes Market Report. I sure thank you for your patience. I know this one is a bit late getting out. I had a cold, and when you're trying to produce a podcast and you can't even speak for 15 or 20 minutes without interruptions, I didn't have COVID, thank goodness, but still, sinus congestion and coughing while you're trying to record and produce a podcast is just no fun. I'm all better now and looking forward to meeting with you and talking to you about selling your home. Please check out my website, www.denverhomesmarket.com. If you have any immediate questions, please give me a call, 720-688-5110. This is your local Denver realtor and host of this podcast, the Denver Homes Market Report. This is Ricky Schoonover of Mode Denver Real Estate, and I hope you enjoyed today's show.